Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party. It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast, with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Hello, everybody. My name is J. Cal. His name is DKM. This is the Alliance Guys podcast. Welcome to our show. I always wanted to start the show like that. And considering nobody's watching, I mean, that's a perfectly acceptable way to start the show, don't you think?
Why not? You like my hat?
I do like your hat. It's very fancy, very, very fancy. We are live here at the Alliance Blog Studios, and we're just waiting for you to catch up so we can start talking some NWA wrestling. And it says there's two people watching, and I think it's you and me.
Well, Dave should be on. It's probably me and Mr. Scoop.
Dave. Is there something going on today?
God, I hope not, because there is. I don't know.
You're like, wait, I'm missing it.
So I'm blaming you.
Yeah, well, it's so
anyway.
Then, while we're waiting for the broadcast to get whoa, it says on one of my windows here that the broadcast has ended. Are we still live?
I still see us.
Oh wow. I think we got dumped from Twitch.
Never did like Twitch anyway.
Oh no, it's up, I guess. No, it's off. Well, that was weird. All right, well, today we're just on YouTube. And I know that's real exciting for all of you watching at home.
You do.
Devin, we're getting close, man. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers on this thing.
How was your day, Jay? Friday the 13th.
1 year. See, it shows that we're on now. What's going on? 1 year, I on Facebook, I put a picture of Michael Myers with the hockey mask, and not Michael Myers. That would be the wrong one. It was Jason, the hockey mask. Michael.
Okay, now we know why nobody's watching. Because Jay can't even keep his horror movie villains right. Well, thank you, folks, for turning in.
What kind of movie?
Horror?
I'm not allowed to watch those kind of movies. I'm a good boy.
Oh, please.
This is the Alliance Guys podcast, and as you know, we like to have fun on this show. We're having fun right now. We're glad that you joined us. We're here each and every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, to talk NWA with you. And this week,
me.
with you, and especially you.
I'm having romper room flashbacks.
I don't know if you've noticed, but that's what I was been going for the last 2 years I've been doing this thing. I point at the camera and I tell people, because I want them to know I'm talking to you. Yes, you right there. All right. So let's see. It looks like we are back live on Twitch, so that's good. Our pal Wrestling with MMA is there. Dave Scooby's in the house. I'm sure more of you will be joining momentarily. Oh, Jason Newsom's here. I got to meet Jason Newsom at the pay-per-view, so that was cool. And I just got an email. The bucket's off. That's not what I needed to hear. All right. Now that the hat's back on, let's get focused here. NWA News and Information. DKM, how are you doing, sir?
I am well. and stylishly hatted.
You need to lift the camera up a little bit so people can see how high your hat goes up. Yes. We had a...
I don't want them looking at my nose because that's not a pleasant view.
Fair enough. Wrestling with MMA wants to know if you have a rabbit in your hat.
Apparently not.
Hey, Luthez, welcome to the show. I knew our friends would show up. They just needed a little bit of time. And then Wrestling with MMA wants you to know that is a stylish hat. Oops, wrong one.
Thank you. Thank you very much. One day I'll get a morning suit to go with it.
You started off with the hat. You should. I mean, most people start off with a suit. You started off with the hat.
Hat's far more practical.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
what's up, Willie?
honestly,
Willie Bowen?
and honestly, not as expensive.
I was gonna say that's a lot cheaper too, right? Willie Bowen's in the house. We got our pals are showing up. So now we can start talking about the wrestling because I know that's what a lot of you are here for. Some of you are here for DK's hat, and that's okay too. There's no wrong reason to be here. But I do want to say this, man, and I want to thank each and every one of you who have been supporting this podcast since Jumpstart. Some of you have been here since day one. DKM was actually my first listener, and now he's co-host of the show. So it just shows you, if you stay here long enough, you too can help host this show. What was it, 2 weeks ago, we had Jeremy on, and he started off as one of our only Twitch viewers. So, but what I'm really trying to say is, I do appreciate your guys' support. The podcast has hit 966 subscribers. So we're literally just like we're not very far, is what I'm trying to say. And that doesn't happen without you guys.
34 is the number you're looking for.
You know, my brain, I told you my brain ain't working today.
Like a standard day.
Yeah, we're 34 subscribers away from hitting that 1,000. Now, why that's important, and I don't know if you guys know this, but that's when the site becomes monetized. And not that I'm going to get rich, or anyone on this podcast is going to get rich from talking NWA. It's kind of a nice to help offset some of the costs. The software we use to broadcast is not free. We do pay for that. We do pay for a lot of the web hosting for the alliance-wrestling.com website. And so it's nice to kind of help offset some of those costs. Of course, it's not going to pay for everything, but it'd be nice if I'm not coming out of my pocket every week to do these podcasts. And, and DK's pocket as well. So we do appreciate you guys subscribing. We do appreciate you guys picking up some shirts. I'm planning to have some more shirts on our Amazon store very, very soon. Willie Bowen says that you look like a pallbearer or Abe Lincoln.
I was going for Ebenezer Scrooge.
I'm sorry, did you say hey Blinken or Abe Lincoln?
Anyway, I was still going for Ebenezer Scrooge.
That works. So thank you again for your support. I hope you guys have been enjoying some of the ancillary content that we've been putting up. I did get to talk to Papo Esco, the United Wrestling Network television champion. That's available on the YouTube channel. I also spoke to Mr. Jeremiah Plunkett just Tuesday, and he is a member of the NWA Power roster, the ill-begotten, the former Southern heavyweight champion, Southern TV champion, NWA Australian champion. So it was really nice to have him on the show. We're efforts.
The ill-begotten still a thing.
It's still a thing, and he's they call him the IBB boys, the ill-begotten boys. Yeah, IBB, the IB boys. And
irritable bowel syndrome.
And then we'll have Chance Prophet on Monday. If you guys remember, Chance Prophet is a former two-time NWA national champion. He was one of the. I said two-time.
I know.
Okay.
I was showing with my fingers.
Okay.
Why are you watching me? Just talk.
You're distracting. You're so gosh darn good looking. The national champion, two-time national champion. He was also a regional champion with Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. He was their first heavyweight champion for Dog. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with him. And just these are the sessions with J-Cow where we're just talking wrestling with some of the old NWA talents and some of the new talents that are emerging from both the United Wrestling Network and the National Wrestling Alliance. Willie Bowen says, DKM, remember the ghosts of past, present, and future. Because you're Ebenezer Scrooge.
Hey, I'm in the ghost.
You are the Ebenezer Scrooge of pro wrestling. And James H. Jackson says, I'm here trying to get some new people in here. I was telling about this weekly chat, so I'm half listening for a few minutes while I try to get them here. Well, hey, we appreciate that too, James. You've been very supportive of the podcast over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years. So we appreciate that. Any help is much appreciated. Again, this is for like-minded fans. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We like to have fun, but we critique the NWA. We give you our honest viewpoints of what can be better and what they're doing right. It's not all negative. There's some positives. We do enjoy the brand, and I enjoy the brand. DK has moments. Our pal Devin Dowling's in the house, and he's pissed that Paola was screwed. I stumbled across her Instagram account today. I don't
think you can say that on public, can you?
I had to leave quickly.
Oh. Was the wife showing up?
No. The NWA.
Was that Instagram you said?
So there's some news that was broken on Twitter today, featuring this Saturday, NWA USA. There will be a #1 contenders match for the junior heavyweight championship. That's probably why we haven't had a match announcement yet for the pay-per-view, where Colby Corino will challenge or defend or wrestle against Caprice Coleman in the Battle of the CCs. And the winner of that will be
in the Battle of what?
Colby Corino, CC, Caprice Coleman, CC. So the four yeses will take that match will determine the #1 contender for the World Junior Heavyweight Championship, who we all assume is still Homicide, but the results from Power Trip 2 have been so tight-lipped that nobody really knows what happened down there in Oak Grove, Kentucky.
I think what you're really saying is nobody apparently cares what happened down there in Oak Grove, Kentucky. Hey, just out of curiosity, if Colby Corino wins the Cruiserweight Championship and he wins the #1 contendership, does that mean he has to wrestle himself?
Yes. And we both misspoke. It's the Junior Heavyweight Championship, not the Cruiserweight title.
Cruiser, Junior, Bob.
Bob, your uncle.
Bob's your uncle.
One of the things I want to talk about tonight before we get too much into the show, because you keep hearing it, and that's why I actually chose our graphic for this week's video of your NWA Women's World Champion, Camille. She keeps calling herself the one-time champion, and I think that's an extremely clever nickname. But I also have this question: Is she right? Is there anyone on this roster that you theoretically could see beating Camille for the Burke? And I'm going to ask you first, DK, but I also want to read the group chat and see what they think too. Because look, she's been very dominant since becoming women's champion. She's approaching a year now as champion. She beat Thunder Rosa to get an opportunity to wrestle Serena Deeb. Defeated Serena Deeb, and if you start pulling down some of her matches and some of her the matches that she's had, I mean, she's a tough competitor. And with Camille being your women's world champion, she's at 341 days today. She's defeated Kenzie Page a handful of times, Amber Nova, legit Layla Hirsch, Chelsea Green, Christy Janes, Melina, Kiera Hogan, Keelan King. She's wrestled her at CCW Industrial Evolution. She's also going to be wrestling her at Alwayz Ready. Shaolin Royal, Ali Catch. I mean, she's really faced off a lot of top competition. And although it wasn't for the women's championship, we know that she had Taya Valkyrie beat at XPW. She beat Mercedes Martinez in a non-title match at the ECW arena not too long ago. She is a tough competitor, and she's only gotten better in the last year as champion. When she says she's a one-time champion, DK, I mean, do you buy in? Do you think she's just a one-time champion?
Well, the strange thing, it's almost like if that's going to be your motto gimmick, it's
your moniker,
your motto / gimmick. It's things like that become dangerous and cause you to lose the title to Tyler Wilde. And for those of you who don't know, she beat Awesome Kong for the Impact title. Short little thing. And I don't know. I'm curious as to Camille. I'm surprised nobody seems to be interested in picking her up at the moment, at least. I haven't heard about her doing any tryouts for WWE. I haven't. She's like been on AEW just as a person with Layla Hirsch, but whereas it was very obvious they wanted Thunder Rosa, I don't see that they've been, out getting her. I don't know how much of an upgrade Impact would be. MLW just started their women's division. Again, I don't see her being, that would be an actual upgrade or not. The only benefit of going back to Impact is they have a pretty good women's division just all around, maybe the best in the business at the moment outside of maybe even including WWE, since they've released so many people. But I don't know. I mean, I don't see anyone that's out there to beat her. I don't really think she needs to be beat anytime soon. I don't think they need to hotshot the title on, Angelina Love, that's her name. Like hotshot the title on Angelina Love or anybody else for that matter. So for now, just let her be a dominant champion. Let her be a one-time champion. Let her hold the title until it becomes. Whereas Tyrus is somebody who needs to lose the title. Right now, I don't know that Camille is.
The thing that I see that could be concerning, and you're right, there isn't a need to take the title off of her. And to the point that you made, it doesn't seem that there's a lot of people calling for Camille, but that's just because we haven't heard it. We don't actually know. We don't know what her contract status is. We don't know who's reached out to her in that capacity. We know that XPW, which is not on the same level as the NWA, but is featuring a ton, and I mean a ton of really good talent coming up at their next show, a women talent. And they're having this women's wrestling show, and I mean, they're featuring Deonna Purrazzo, Taya Valkyrie, of course, Camille. There's a few other names that I can't think of right now, and I'll try to look it up, but it's not like it's not like they're just throwing out anybody. There's a few former NXT women wrestlers that will be a part of that tournament. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. Okay, yeah, it's Camille, Taya Valkyrie, Chelsea Green, Sage Sin Supreme, who that's a local SoCal women's wrestler, Deonna Purrazzo, Lindsay Snow, and Ludark Shateson. I have no idea who that is. And I thought there was a few other people in that tournament, but I guess that's it. But I mean, Chelsea Green she's a commodity. Deonna Purrazzo is certainly one of the best women wrestlers on the planet right now. Lindsay Snow is very well received when she had her circled squared match for the NWA, and really got a lot of attention at the Mission Pro show that she worked. However, she hasn't been healthy. She's just now starting to get back into it. So I mean, a promotion like XPW, which is featuring so much women's talent, I mean, that's a place that Kamille could end up like full time.
Yeah, she could. But again, I mean, I think all the people we're talking about there are working other places.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's interest in her. I don't know that there's anybody, and she is under contract, so there's contract negotiation here. But then, so was Thunder Rosa. So I just don't know that. We'll see where it goes. And I get the weirdest feeling they might just leave the title on her for now.
Yeah, I mean, unlike you nailed it. Unlike Tyrus, there doesn't feel like there's a need to take the belt off of Kamille. I feel like maybe Kamille, I don't know, maybe she just needs a better list of challenges, maybe, because I can't take any more Kenzie Page versus Kamille matches. I don't need that matchup ever again.
Speaking of, yeah, I mean, and that is part of the problem is then when you have a dominant person, you have to keep filtering new talent through.
Yeah.
And, this could be part of the reason that Billy's supposedly looking at like a women's TV title or something to that effect. In that, what do you do? And
can I fantasy book something real quick?
Go ahead.
So if anyone was listening to J Cal, what I would do is it's very similar to what I said in the past with the NWA. There is an all women's wrestling promotion that's returning, that's debuting on the CW seed or whatever it is. It's part of the CW family, and that's the Women's of Wrestling Superheroes. We know that in the past, Barbie Hayden, a former women's junior heavyweight champion, has been on that show. Amber O'Neal, a former women's world heavyweight champion, been on that show. Santana Garrett, a former NWA women's world champion, has been featured on that show. And I think it would be in the NWA's best interest if maybe they developed a working relationship with this program. Now, this is a spotlight on women's wrestling, not unlike Empower, but on a weekly basis. And could you imagine if the NWA had the ability to send Camille, maybe send Genocide, maybe even send, Natasha Marcova to that program in exchange and have some of those women come to the NWA and just have, a series of matches, maybe nothing too serious. Maybe Camille never defends the NWA championship on their show, but just shows up with it. Maybe their women's champion comes to the NWA to defend her title. I think that would make for some interesting television. At the very least, it would get more eyeballs on the NWA product, and of course put Camille and some of the NWA female talents in front of a bigger audience. And then it would lend some credibility to the women of wrestling to feature some prominent female wrestlers like Camille, Genocide, and Natalia Marcova. Thoughts?
They need something like that. I mean, I'm not wild about using other promotions unless they're kind of like basically going to put your title out to that, promotion for a while. But they need something that can feed into Camille. They need to be able to bring in the occasional name and to make it feel important. And I'm like, ooh, maybe. But I don't really have a complaint other than once you run through everybody, then what do you do? You're making me think way too much on this one.
Well, keep thinking. I'm going to read some more comments from the chat, and we'll give me some more thoughts when we're done with that. Devin Dowling says Killian King could have a banger with Camille, but she should have to face Paola. Of course, we'll talk about the matchup between Paola and Camille later. But, yeah, I know that, Devin's number one is Paola. So, of course, Willie Bowen says it would take a lady wrestler that's big like Genocide and the muscle tone of Jordan Grace. I mean, or maybe it's not. Sometimes they say styles make the matches, and the contrast of styles sometimes make the matches even better. So who knows?
Well, and that was even my point when I was bringing up Taylor Wilder, whatever name she wrestled under, when she beat Awesome Kong. She was like the shortest, smallest girl on the roster, and that was the whole thing behind her thing. She was able to roll Kong up, use her weight against her, and get a pin. Everybody was like, wow. And then they were going to do a rematch. So everybody figures it's a hot shot situation and Kong's going to squash her. And, guess what? It didn't happen. And so it's not so much that it has to be big, strong, female wrestler. Even if you look at Chelsea Green, she's tall, but she's very slender, but she's, athletic in her look. And I never would have had a problem if she had won.
Right.
And it's one of those, don't overthink it and don't underthink it either.
Sure.
It's the right, it's getting hot in here. It's the right, like you said, it's the right style. It's the right match. It's something that, you can believe that this smaller person was smart enough to, take out this bigger person.
And just as as we're talking here, I kind of looked at the women of wrestling roster, and I know a couple of these women have already been a part of the NWA, like Kiera Hogan, of course, Thunder Rosa under the Serpentine gimmick. One that I would have loved to see in the NWA is now part of the NXT, and that would be the Lioness. The Sassy Massies with Impact. Holly Dead pulling it down with Pro Wrestling Revolution. One name that's on here that certainly it sounds like she's no longer involved with the company. That would be Tessa Blanchard. Would you jeopardize? Would you jeopardize your locker room and bring Tessa Blanchard in to face Camille?
No.
All right.
I don't know what's happened with Tessa Blanchard. Apparently, she's as big of an asshole as her dad was back in those days. And the problem was, whereas Tully was always kind of had his part in the main event scene, it was by being a part of a group in the Four Horsemen. People forget Tully Blanchard was a mid-carder until the Four Horsemen. And so
wasn't Magnum TA her stepdad though? Like, why didn't any of that rub off on her?
I don't.
Or maybe it did.
And I don't know a lot about Magnum outside the ring, so I can't answer that. But yeah, sometimes genetics win. But honestly, Tessa Blanchard, and I blame Impact, because when they decided to put the world title on her, everything. Even if she come back and lost it, that's just something that I think fed her ego to a point that it was like, oh, she doesn't want to wrestle women anymore. She doesn't want to be a women's champion. She wants to be a world champion. It's like, oh, God, stop that crap. And so I say sometimes people buy into their own hype, and I think she was one of them. I think she kind of bought into her own hype. And then, you know, somebody said after this latest thing with WoW that she's likely to only wrestle in Japan.
Or Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico, excuse me. Yep, I screwed that one up. Mexico.
Well, and I know she's living in Mexico right now, too. Or at least she was with Daga. Anyways.
Yoba?
Ferris Bueller. Just jumping back to the comments real quick. Luthes says, has there been a 2-time women's champion in the Corgan era? And I think the answer to that is no. Jazz was the champion. She forfeited the title. Then we had Allison Kay win the championship. Allison Kay dropped it to Thunder Rosa to Serena Deeb to Kamille, and hasn't been anyone since. So, no. In fact,
the only titles that have been regained under Corgan have been Aldis regaining the world title and what's his name? Someone tell me his name. Colt Cabana and Chris Adonis regaining the national title. I think everything else has been single title reigns. No one's regained the TV title. Nobody's regained the women's title. I don't think anybody's regained the tag team titles. So,
tag team titles were the Wild Card, the Rock and Roll Express, Eli Drake and James Storm, Kratos and Aaron Stevens, and then Lara Bellion. So there has been no change in the tag titles, at least no repeat champions. The national title was Cabana, Storm, Cabana. Who did he lose to? Stevens. And then Stevens lost to Murdoch. Murdoch lost to Adonis. Adonis twice.
Yeah, Adonis gave the title up and won it the second time.
What's that?
He gave the title up and then won it the second time.
Right. And then, and of course, that led to Anthony Mayweather and then Jack Stane winning it a second time, but under different ownership. So it's a little bit different.
Right. Again, looking at the Billy thing, there just hasn't been and as long as it's been since Dana's held any NWA title, then it's, you know, it really is all. It's like he's a 2-time, 1-time champion.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He is a 2-time, 1-time champion. But you know, I'll never get tired of his cutting that promo, and we'll get to that momentarily. I want to finish up with the comments, and then we'll move on to the actual show. Dave Scooby says her and Tom need to be built up as the power couple. And we'll get to that in the show too. But there seems to be like maybe there might be even problems in Paradise too. Dave Scooby says they're building up a few contenders: Genocide, Keelian, and maybe down the line Mickey. I said this offline with DK, and I firmly believe it. I think the marquee matchup, and this I think you used this at the 74th anniversary show, is Mickie James versus Camille. But I think when it's time to move on, if I had to pick from someone on the NWA roster today, I'm picking Genocide. That's just my 2 cents. Scooby also says if the NWA does empower to, maybe try and get some WoW talent to appear and maybe do some crossover. WoW will be on CW in the fall, I believe. Yeah, I mean, it'd be perfect timing, right? And it could almost be like a WoW NWA joint pay-per-view, not unlike when they did the first Crockett Cup. I don't know if Billy's willing to give up that much. I did talk to somebody today who's familiar with the insides of WoW, and they said that their David, whose last name I can't remember right now, is very hands-on and is not really willing to let his people work elsewhere. There's a lot of gals that are on that roster right now getting paid just to sit at home, waiting for the next set of TV tapings. James H. Jackson says, I hope they do an Empower 2. The first one was well received and praised for the wrestling quality and talent that was on the show. The one thing about Empower 2 is that you can almost bet that there won't be an AEW influence like there was the last time. Because I feel like there were bad feelings following the last one. But it seems like since then, the NWA and Impact have kind of partnered up and had this relationship. So maybe an Empower 2 pay-per-view might feature more Impact talents. And then James also says, Kratos has been doing so much in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Wish he could bring his New Japan Pro Wrestling character to the NWA. If Billy would let him be how he is in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, I don't know that you're even going to see Kratos again in the NWA. It seems like they wrapped up that storyline with him and Stevens. Hell, Stevens said on TV last week that he was leaving. So maybe this is it for him. Maybe there won't be another Kratos, returning Kratos to the NWA.
I mean, if I were Kratos, I wouldn't return.
I heard right from Jordan Clearwater's mouth that he's having a great time working those NWA tapings, that he's having a great time. I asked him at a Hollywood taping before the end of the year, I said, how is it working both United and the NWA? He goes, oh man, it's great. I get to do everything. I get to have fun. I get to wrestle. I get to, I'm having the most fun of my life right now. And I mean, that speaks volumes about at least the chemistry that's in the locker room for the NWA. Or maybe he's just,
or his age.
Yeah. Or his age. Sure. He's a younger guy too.
He's younger. He's breaking into the business. And like I said, I think he's having fun just being able to work and, do all this.
Yeah.
Somebody like Kratos, who was a more serious character and kind of a badass outside the NWA. And, let's be honest, his character actually devolved from when he first came in.
This is true.
He was kind of that character when he first came in to be with Stevens. The hired assassin, the guy to come in and do things. And then when they decided to turn Stevens' face and have them argue and tension and drama and all that stuff, slowly but surely he kind of became a bit of a wuss. And
this is true.
And, he's not the same age as Clearwater.
No.
And I think he's a different character and personality than Clearwater. And look, hey, if the money's good, that's one thing. But if it's just, you're going to make me look like an idiot just so I can wrestle 5 times a year, or whatever, while I'm trying to show myself off in these other places. No, I mean, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense too. Well then let's jump to the card, right? Let's talk about NWA USA. The fastest 30 minutes in pro wrestling, or your money back. This episode, you could play it at 2.5 times the speed and get through it like that. That's it. Look, when it's not a good show, I fully admit to doing that. But when the matches are good, I do slow it down and actually get invested in it, because they do have some good matches from time to time. And like this week, I mean, although I've seen it more often than I need to, Kenzie Page and Natalia Marcova was a pretty good match. In fact, I thought it was a really good match. But let's start with the show. The show opens with May Valentine with the true power couple of the NWA, and I'm talking about Tom and Camille. And Camille states that there are no worthy challengers for her championship. That's where the one-time championship moniker kind of rings true. And that she will remain forever a one-time champion. She doesn't care about the thoughts or the opinions of the fans or even May Valentine. And Camille cuts off Tom when May asks about the national championship. May says, hey, you shocked the world by challenging Jack Stain for that national championship. How are you feeling to chase that title? Which I thought was an interesting expression. And before he could answer, Kamille kind of cut him off. And that's the first time she kind of censored him and prevented him from speaking. Kamille proclaims it's only a matter of time before Tom is world's heavyweight championship. What did you think of this opening segue for the show?
I think it's one of those things that's wrong in pro wrestling today.
Okay.
And first of all, Camille's very much liked by the fans. I mean, the fans want to cheer for Kamille.
Yeah.
And they're keeping her in this heel role instead of more like a Steve Austin badass role. And now they're doing this thing where apparently she's going to be Maria Kanellis to Tom Latimer's Mike Kanellis in WWE. And it's like, okay, now how can I take him seriously as a challenger for the national title when, you know, we'll talk about the ice pack later, but when you got this crap going on. And so, you know, I still like Kamille, but they seem to be heading down a booking road here that I hope they throw away and don't complete. Latimer needs to be booked as a strong guy. She needs to be booked as a strong lady. Someone said power couple. Well, then they need to both be of the power, not just, you know, not Kamille and her bitch.
Yeah.
And so I actually was not happy with this start.
Okay. So
what do you think?
I like the moniker. I like how they're kind of teaching the fans that that's what they're going to call her as. I don't like how she cut off Tom. That always tends to lead to animosity and problems down the road. And I'm just hoping we don't have that.
So what was next?
So next up, we have the first match of the night, Kenzie Page versus Natalia Marcova. Now, for those keeping score at home, this is the third time that Kenzie Page and Natalia Marcova have wrestled each other in the NWA. I also want to note that Kenzie Page has won a total of 3 matches while in the NWA, but has a combined loss count, and I mean tag team matches, qualifying matches, triple threats, whatever, of 10 losses. So I guess this is one of the only real feuds that are happening within the NWA women's division. These two, again, have met each other several times, but Dusa had suspended Kenzie Page a few months ago for attacking Natalia Marcova. They've had a lot of interaction, and I do like the fact that they have this angle that's kind of brewing there. But again, I feel like it's a lot of repetition when there's enough women on this roster to spread things out a bit. So these two are no strangers to each other in this match, and it starts off super aggressive, which I really like. We don't need to have a feeling out process. You've been in the ring now 3 times. This is just go. And there were a few times during the match that I felt like Kenzie Page just wasn't into it. Like, I would watch her face when, she gets kicked, and instead of having a stoic face or a face that was hurt, it was just kind of And it's such a contrast, because when you look at Natalia Marcova, when you look at her face, when she emotes, when she gets hit or kicked, she looks like she's in pain. Sometimes she looks like she enjoys the pain, but you can tell that she's feeling something. When she's getting kicked, she feels it. When she's getting punched, she feels it. And you look over at Kenzie Page, it doesn't feel like she's emoting how she's feeling. And it kind of takes a little bit away from the match, just because when you're watching, it just doesn't feel like she's there. Page just didn't register the pain, so that was kind of threw me out of the match a little bit. Go ahead.
No, never mind.
Go ahead.
No, I thought something had happened, but it's already been talked about, and we'll talk about it later.
Okay. But nothing in this match, nothing that Kenzie Page could do in this match would keep Marcova down. Like she went for her finishing move, and Marcova was able to block it. And then the match ended kind of in a weird way. It was a roll-up, not like a victory roll, but just kind of like a weird roll-up. It should not have, like, I would have imagined it should not have gotten the 3 count, but nevertheless, that's how she beat Kenzie Page. What do you think of that match?
The match itself sure was fine. Is it really a feud when the same person wins cleanly every time?
I mean, maybe not.
It's the hypothetical question, but still just rhetorical. That's the word I'm looking for. Every now and then, English does come back to me. It's rhetorical. It's a rhetorical question, but I mean, I think the point is, is it really a feud, or we just get to see the same people have a very similar match each time? The ending was bizarre in that you would almost think it was a botch, but I don't think it was. It almost looked like they were trying to redo the Barry Windham Ric Flair thing when Flair won the NWA title off Windham, where Wyndham's reaching out for the ropes, because that's kind of what it looked like Kenzie Page was doing. Like she was trying to reach for the ropes or something, and then they don't realize that their shoulders are down until they're counted 3.
Okay.
And so it was very bizarre. In isolation, yes, the match was good, and this is the 3rd time they faced and nothing changed, other than Page, who was a heel at the pay-per-view, but was a face back here at the tapings.
Yeah.
She loses. That's what she does. She goes in and she loses.
And then she kind of flirts with being a heel again too. So it's like her mannerisms leading up to the ring, the blowing the kisses. She was doing that at the pay-per-view as well. So it's just kind of I don't know. It felt like there was a little bit of confusion going on. Maybe she doesn't even know what role she's supposed to be playing.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, because the person who's booking, I think it's one of those, we don't need heels and faces anymore in this day and age. You're a moron.
I don't agree with that.
What?
That we don't need heels and faces at this point.
Oh.
I think that's crazy talk. Let's go back to the show. After that, we have May Valentine in the back with Kerry Morton. Kerry is worried about his pops, and he should be. His dad's 65 years old, still trying to compete at a high level, and he's going up against Wrecking Ball Legerski, a man who's legitimately 350 pounds and one of the most over tag teams in the NWA today. Kerry is concerned that something bad could happen when his dad steps into the ring against Legerski. And I just kept feeling like, man, can he just go heel already? I feel like there's Kerry's a natural heel, man. I just feel it. What do you think?
Yeah, he is. And I think it would also break him from needing to be, Ricky Morton 2.0.
Yeah.
And I think there's just an expectation even among fans stuff like, he's Ricky Morton 2.0. He's just going to be Ricky Morton all over again, and he shouldn't be Ricky Morton all over.
No way.
Again. And he would probably work better as a heel. Even though he's got the baby face that baby faces are named after, he's also got what Jim Cornette likes to call a slappable face. And that I think he's the type of person that could annoy you to the point where you just want to slap his face and be done with it. And I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the interview. And in fact, didn't pay a whole lot of attention to any of the interviews on the show after the first one. And yeah, turn him heel, stop putting Ricky in the ring. We'll talk more about that later.
So that brings up Black G's with Kyle up at the front, and G's is talking about homicide. Now this is a different side of Black G's. We normally hear the church's money, and he's kind of being braggadocious about Idolmania sports management. But this is a very different approach. Black G's seems humble, and he says how he once looked up to homicide as a hero, as a mentor, as a teacher, as a trainer, and that he respects him. But he also wants a shot at that World Junior Heavyweight title. And it's almost like, especially over the last few weeks, you know, a lot of these Idolmania guys are starting to get over with that Nashville crowd now. This Nashville crowd in particular was still booing Black G's, but promos like this, he seems more like a babyface than a heel. You didn't really listen, but do you have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I listened enough to get the gist of it, and kind of like you said, I'm once again going, all right, who's supposed to be faces and who's supposed to be heels here?
Yeah.
And it's G's is small even for a junior heavyweight, but at least that's the right place if he's going to wrestle for him to be. So, I mean, I don't have an issue with him challenging for the title, other than he doesn't wrestle much, and it would be, you know, I'd like to see something that says, yeah, he deserves a title shot. But in general, I don't have a major issue with it.
That's fair.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you think there should be some kind of build or some kind of shot earned, even if it's just one of the stupid three ways? I mean, I wouldn't want it to be, but
I mean, I always feel like there should be some sort of build up for these. I don't feel like anyone should be just given a title match, and we'll talk more about that later. But you know, I feel like that tends to devalue the title when someone could just say, "Hey, I want a shot." Well, hey, man, everyone wants a shot. That's the whole point of this thing. Get back in line and start racking up some victories. Now, it's one thing to say, hey, here are my intentions. You know, Homicide, I respect you, and I want to face you. So I'm going to go through however many men you put in front of me to get to you, because I'm going to be the next junior heavyweight champion. Now, maybe that's too much of a babyface promo, but if you do something like that, I feel like you're creating that sense of urgency that every match needs to be a victory, and Homicide needs to be at the announcer table, or he needs to be watching from the entryway or something to kind of lend credence that this is an important matchup. But you know, again, just hey, it's time for a title shot. No, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
So what was next? Or did we care?
Well, actually, next was kind of an entertaining segment where you had 60 seconds of Jack Stane, maybe the best 60 seconds on all of NWA Pro Wrestling. Jack Stane, basically, this is a Jack Stane promo 101. He mentions his accomplishments, says that Jack Stane is all about the fast cars, hot chicks, protein shakes, free weights. That's Jack Stane. And he talks about how he's the Dane event of the NWA, and always will be the Dane event. And, you know, of course, he lists off his accomplishments as the two-time national champion, a former world champion, former world tag team champion, former North American champion. I love how he keeps bringing up the North American championship, although that's a defunct title in the NWA as it stands. It leans on his history with the brand. And this was one of the 60-second spots that I actually enjoyed. Some of them have been a bit rough. This was a good one. Your thoughts?
Yeah. What I enjoy about it is because I see how much Jax has grown.
Yes.
As a pro wrestler and his ability to do these. You know, when he first won all the titles he brags about. He wasn't a talker. In fact, he often didn't do promos on any of the shows or whatever. He would occasionally do like a sit down shoot interview, but he didn't go out on the go to the announce table or announce desk or interview area where someone held a microphone and talked about what he was going to do or whatever. And that was kind of his gimmick, was he didn't talk much. And so it's a shame because now he talks so well.
Well, do you remember right after he lost the World's Heavyweight Championship to Tim Storm, he immediately had his eyes set on the Ring of Honor, where he was supposed to team up with his old tag team partner, whose name escapes me right now, basically the Viking Raiders in the WWE. And they were going to form like a trios for Ring of Honor. And he cut this amazing promo. And we're like, wait, what? What? You could have been doing this the entire time? And it was kind of like, the NWA at the time, that management, whether it was his decision or the NWA's decision, but he just didn't cut promos. But as soon as he left, I mean, he showed that he could.
I think it was his.
It could have been. So that was a fun little segment. And that brings us to the main event for USA, which is going to be Ricky Morton versus Wrecking Ball Legerski. And this match is 100% of what it should have been. Morton is 65. He's taking on a guy who's in his prime. Father Time has always been undefeated, and Legerski in no way should be doing a job for Ricky. So the match is what it is. He power bombs, or he tries to power bomb Ricky Morton. Kerry runs out, pulls him out to save his dad. When they kept saying how much nobody's supposed to be ringside, that brings out Jay Bradley, who just mauls Kerry Morton like a baby cub. And then Legerski gets that powerbomb for the victory. So that was the end of that match, and that was the end of USA. One thing I didn't like is, Velvet Sky and Joe Galley were so they kind of churned on Wrecking Ball, and they kind of made him out to be the bad guy here. But again, Ricky Morton wants a shot at Colby Corino. Legerski was just doing his job. I mean, what do you?
Well,
what
again,
do you think?
we have that heel face problem in that Billy doesn't, will book somebody face and then book somebody heel one week to the next,
Right.
however he needs them. Just a pain in the ass. Now, I have a secret to tell all of you. I made myself dinner during that match. So I kind of heard it in the background, but I didn't see it. I don't want to see Ricky Morton in the ring. And I don't know how to make it any clearer than I'm not going to watch when Ricky Morton's in the ring. It's pointless. They need to stop. I'll pull a Kevin Frazier here. He needs to stop. He needs to be big enough on his own to say, I don't need to be in the ring anymore.
Yeah.
It's one thing to come out in the case. If they want to make him a manager, then find him a tag team to manage or something like that. I wouldn't even manage just a stunt. He needs to go away. He needs to go back and run his school of Morton and put on the shows that the school puts on. And Kerry needs to turn heel and just work there without his dad as a heel until, what you really hope somebody like Kerry is that they can turn heel and they'll get over enough that they'll naturally turn face in the fans' eyes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we have in that Camille situation.
Yeah.
So that, but turn him heel, let him not be his dad, let him be the antithesis of his dad. And I think he'd make a great chicken shit heel.
100%.
And just, let him be a different guy, let him be a different wrestler, and let me go take my medication while you start the next show.
We'll do that. I'm going to pull you off camera. Scooby says, hopefully this match will lead to a Colby Carey feud or possibly them teaming up in a, if you can't beat them, join them storyline. And I think, Dave, I agree with you. I think that's the best way to kind of make it happen, right? You have them have a few matches back and forth. If we're not going to put Colby Carino as your junior heavyweight champion, they can make a really interesting tag team, him and Carey, especially if down the road the NWA decides to introduce a second set of tag titles, be it a junior heavyweight tag titles or like a U.S. tag titles, whatever it is. They would be, they could be like the heel version of the Rock and Roll Express. Hell, get Jim Cornette to manage them. There you go. That's how you make this all work. Look, this episode of NWA USA, it wasn't my favorite. I did really much enjoy the women's match. I'm okay with the two matches. I'm not a huge Ricky Morton fan, but he did the job for Wrecking Ball, and I think that was important because if Wrecking Ball does the job to Ricky Morton, what does it say about one of the fiercest guy on the roster? Not a whole lot, if you ask me. So that's going to bring us to the next episode, the next show that's on the NWA docket, and that would be POWERRR. This is season 8, episode 7. Now, I guess the rationale is that each episode, each season is a new season after each pay-per-view. I don't know if I hate that idea or love it. I know it's a good way of keeping things a little bit more organized, but it's a little misleading because the show's only been on for the better part of 2 years. It debuted at the fall of 2019, wrapped up before the spring of 2020, went a whole year without a new episode in 2020 till later in the summer of 2021, spring of 2021. So I think it's a little confusing to say that there's been 8 seasons of the show, but nevertheless, 8 seasons of NWA Power, and this one kicks off with Kyle Davis with the Commonwealth Connection. Williams and Smith are all in with helping Nick Aldis and the Cardonas. One thing that I thought was peculiar that I'm sure TKM popped for, and that was you don't often hear Winston Churchill quoted in a pro wrestling show. Harry reminded us that, Harry remedied that. He also reminded us of his lineage, not just being a Hart family member, but also a Smith family member. And he knows all about being in a family. I thought it was also kind of weird when Doug Williams mentioned that he said, I practically think of Nick as family. That's like, I think Nick has said more than once that he is family. So it just, that kind of made me laugh. DK, what did you think of this promo? What did you think of this setup?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, it was a good start to the show. Got us right into what the main event's going to be. Aldis wasn't there. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I listened to it. And of course, I would pop if somebody quotes Churchill. So you were right. I thought that was a great thing.
You don't hear that very often if someone quotes Churchill or, any real leader. But I mean, I guess it's even more fitting because he chose the UK premier. No, not premier. What do they call him in the United Kingdom?
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister. There you go.
2 times. So he was a 2-time Prime Minister. Two-time Prime Minister. But that's all the UK history you're going to get on this show. The next segment was a non-title match with Paola Blais taking on Camille. Now this match kicks off basically with Paola Blais just eating it. She was just outmatched, outclassed, everything. Honestly, she doesn't even want to make contact with Camille for the first 30 seconds of the match. Finally, the champion gets fed up and just gores Paola Blais into the corner.
And that was probably one of my favorite spots in the entire match, because she just showed how powerful she is and how small Paola Blais is, because she just rammed her right in the corner. And then the match is just all Kamille. She's just eating her up, bite after bite, until Kamille lands wrong, and she appears to have injured her right knee. The referee is checking her out. They unofficially call a timeout, which, that doesn't exist in pro wrestling. What's really weird is Tom Latimer jumps inside the ring to offer some coaching and support. They go grab Kyle Davis, who, I don't know, maybe he has a medical background. They never once called for an ambulance or a stretcher or anything else, or doctor. So Paola Blais sees the opportunity, kicked Tom Latimer straight into mommy and daddy maker, and then went to work on Camille's bad knee. Now, this was a very different Paola Blais. We haven't seen an aggressive Paola Blais like this. And we haven't seen an injured Camille like this. So the match got a very different look at Camille. But eventually Camille regains control of the match. She hits her own growing kick, and she gets the victory after 2 spears on a bad knee. And the second spear was per request of Tom Latimer for the kick to the groin that he received. I really felt like this match did a lot to make Paola seem like a legitimate competitor. Up until this point, she's kind of been more of a laughingstock or like a sidekick. This was the first time she really looked like she belonged in the NWA to me. What did you think?
I enjoyed the match minus Latimer standing around with ice on his balls. I could have done without that. And because to me, that was, again, reckoning back to okay, who's the man here? But the match itself was good. It made sense that Camille would dominate until, something unexpected happened. She injured her leg, and that happens, in MMA and stuff like that. They get injured and they're jumping around in the octagon or in a boxing ring or whatever, and it's just like, I was able to handle it. I was able to handle it. She was able to take it, Blais was able to take advantage of that. And so, yeah, good match.
Yeah.
So, keep ice off balls and, give us good wrestling.
It happens every now and then. The next up, sorry, I'm just looking for my battery here real quick, and I don't have it, so we'll have a change of scenery here in a minute. Next up is we get Kyle with Matt Taven. He is I, and I am him, and I don't think that's a very clever thing to say anyways, but Matt Taven says that the OGK are in the NWA to win tag team championships. But he'd be lying if he didn't say he at least had a passing interest in the 10 pounds of gold. And he's interested in challenging Matt Cardona for the title. They started talking about purple and tights, and that just lost me. I had no patience for that. What did you think of this one?
I lost interest and stopped listening. I mean, not like times when I muted or anything like that. It was just, my mind kind of tuned it out.
Well,
I was like, okay, let me know what you're doing.
You have the opportunity to say what you need to say. Now move on. We don't need to hear anything more.
I don't like silliness. I can handle comedy. I can handle funny. I can handle, like jokes, burns, that type of stuff.
Sure.
But I don't like silly.
Yeah.
And this was, to me, silly. What about you guys out there? You like silly? You like it when they get silly?
That's a great question. What did you guys think? Leave a comment. did you think it's funny, or did you enjoy the promo from Matt Taven? And do you mind a little bit of silly in your pro wrestling? I mean, if you're a fan of this version of the NWA, you have to at least enjoy some silliness. It's funny to me where you'll hear people say, oh, the NWA is like, this is what real wrestling should be like. And then I sit there and I go, you got no problem with Gags the Gimp, huh? You're good with that? All right. That's wrestling.
Yeah, that's later. That's later. Let's not, destroy it now.
We'll get to it. We'll get up to it. We get to all of it. Then we get Taven and Judas. Now, this match, I didn't really know what to expect. The way that Judas has been built within the NWA has been less than stellar. But this was different. Judas looked the way I think they've wanted him to look all along in this match. Remember when he was in the Battle Royal and he still kind of just, he was there to dominate and he still just kind of looked like, eh. It was one of the worst Battle Royals I'd ever seen, but it was just kind of, eh. And then we get, he has that feud with James Storm, who absolutely whips his ass. He challenges Chris Adonis, loses. The guy can't catch a break. He doesn't really do anything worth mentioning. And then they put him in the ring here tonight with Matt Taven, and it's not a bad match. It's actually pretty good. Matt Taven made Judas look like the way I think the NWA wanted Judas to look the entire time. The match is mostly Judas. He's in control of it. He's got the size. He's got the strength. Taven, of course, has the speed and agility, but Judas is all over him, doesn't get an opportunity to get much going until he hits his finisher out of nowhere. He hits his finisher, and then for some reason, instead of going for the pin, he goes to the top rope. And that basically is what orchestrates the attack by Miserably Faithful, who run out to attack Taven, save Judas, Gags and Sal. This brings out the Briscoe brothers, who, at this point I thought might be done with the NWA, but they come out to make the save, if you will, against their longtime rivals, the OGK. Joe Galley was quick to point out that Michael Bennett was not in attendance for this event. He was not there, so he couldn't come out and make the save. So at the very least, it's setting up maybe another matchup between the Briscoes and perhaps OGK, or maybe even the Miserably Faithful. Thoughts?
Well, I don't want to see anything with the Miserably Faithful, but yeah, good match, horrible ending. I just don't like the Miserably Faithful. And I guess the one thing I learned in this match was that Judas can have a good match if he's in the ring with somebody who can lead him. And I have a feeling that happened. I think Matt Taven, I think, is the younger guy, but I think he was able, he's had the more big time experience. I think he was able to lead him through a good match. And shout out to what Luthez do for zero silliness in Munchak, St. Louis, NWA. Certainly true. Talking about a old school guy. He wanted wrestling to appear as real as possible. And he also points out that if wrestling was religion, he would be Al Qaeda, which I'm pretty sure is going to get you on a watch list now. So don't plan on flying anywhere anytime soon.
What do you mean you can't say bomb on a plane? Bomb, bomb, bomb.
Jay won't be flying anywhere soon either. And Dave Scooby, most of the interviews, in my opinion, need to be serious, to the point. They aren't in front of a crowd usually, so they can be done until they feel it's done correctly. I would agree with that. And Firefly goes, the whole stable is silly in a bad way. And you can't argue that one.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about to me, that's one of the things that's so contrarian to this idea that the NWA is a mecca of pro wrestling, the way that we grew up with, the way that it's supposed to be. I mean, look, let's be honest. There was always a little bit of goofiness in the NWA, even back in the 80s. I mean, the Ding Dongs, right? The Mulkeys. Like, there was always a little bit of silliness. And, I mean, when you had the Russians who, like, later we were convinced that, Nikita Koloff wasn't really Russian anyways. And, Crusher Khrushchev later became Demolition Smash. So, there's always been a little bit of silly, a little bit of gimmick, but not like this. And I feel like, especially when you have this in the next match, you have two over sexualized teams. It's weird and it's uncomfortable for me. And I even told DKM offline, this would have been a good match if they would have just stopped with all the shitty gimmicks and just left it be pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's gonna be another one of those time for me to be honest type of situations.
Sure.
I didn't really watch the match.
All right. Well,
but I didn't leave or anything like that. I think I was listening to something on my phone during it. It's another one of those. I don't like the dirty, sexy voice. Oh, wait a minute. There's one thing I want to throw back into the last match.
All right.
Which is, again, the announcing this show was horrible, and it was all Velvet and Idol. And the last match was terrible.
Yeah.
The two of them arguing. And, Taven being a punk or not a punk or whatever. And, of course, the last match, because Velvet hates Cardonis. It was one of those horrible situations. And in this tag team match that, I was still sitting on the couch, but not paying a whole lot of attention. I did hear enough to listen to Velvet moan and whine that her best friend was there with the guy that she's interested in. And
she's not the jealous type. She doesn't do jealousy.
But it was still wrong for her to be there. And it was just like, you don't mess with someone else's dude or something. And I'm like, oh my freaking gosh, it's Velvet After Dark again. What the hell? I'm back in high school and listening to girls be catty. I didn't like it when I was in high school. I sure as hell don't like it at 54.
Yeah.
Or about to be 54 here in another week or so. By the way, my birthday's coming up in a week or so, people. I take cash donations. So if you want to get me something, money is great. Anyway.
You need to change your name. Your name below, it should be your Cash App handle.
I'll do that next week. So, when it's closer to my birthday. When it's closer to my birthday. If you enjoy
this content, you can tip us on Cash App. Oh, no, I killed DK.
And I do want to ask you about one part in the match, because I did look up long enough to see this when I was trying to figure out what the yelling was. Did I see Dango giving Okay.
So let me.
Hey Jay, wouldn't you have loved it if your girls had walked in at that moment?
So let me run down the match, and this is again, first before we get to the match, of course, May Valentine was in the back with Tyrus, and they talk about the body slam challenge, and this is when Tyrus can start. I don't know, man. I don't like him as a wrestler. But he's very believable when he's on the microphone. And his promos are pretty good. And he's talking about how he acknowledges what Mims did. He's like, nobody else on the roster could do that. Only Mims could do that. And that's what I've been looking for. Somebody who could really challenge me. Someone who's really going to put me to my test before I get to my world title shot where I become the unified world television champion. And that promo was great. But we know what's going to happen when they actually wrestle. It's not going to be a one-on-one match, and we'll have all kinds of interference, and Mims will probably end up losing. But it was still a pretty good promo. Did you hear that one, or did you skip past that, DK?
No, I did hear it, and I have forgotten about it, but I did hear it. And yeah, we said before Tyrus can talk, and I'm sure being on the Fox show, helps. And, he can speak, he can talk, he can be believable. I just don't want to see him wrestle. And I sure as hell don't want him to, hold the TV title for a year and never defend it.
It's only been 6 months.
It has not been 6 months.
Says he's defended it.
So this will be his 6th title defense. He's held it like 11 months or something like that. Something ridiculous.
So
go look at last week's broadcast where I named how long everybody's held everything.
That brings us to the DSB, those dirty sexy boys versus miserably faithful. Angelina Love comes out with the DSBs, and now Velvet Sky just spends far too much time whining about Angelina Love and the DSBs and why it's not right. And this to echo the sentiment that DKM had. There's no room for this in the broadcast. Come on. Like, you can't tell me, like, whoever is the producer of this show, and maybe it's not Billy, maybe Billy doesn't have the final say on the show, but whoever is when this show is finished, you cannot tell me, you cannot look me in the eye and say, that was great, man. That was awesome. That's everything we were hoping for. Because if that's what you're telling me, tell me that now, and I'm gonna end my subscription with the NWA, because this is shit. It's absolute shit, and I'm tired of it. And I don't know what more to say. Velvet Sky could have been good. She had potential. Whoever is coaching her or not coaching her is failing her. The NWA is not better with Velvet Sky in the booth. Her and Austin Idol arguing every week is awful. Her clamoring for a shot at Dango is terrible. The Velvet After Dark was terrible. And if you tell me that the show's better because of Velvet Sky, just stop watching this podcast, because you're a joke to me, and this program becomes a joke. But
stay subscribed.
What's that?
But stay subscribed.
Yeah, stay subscribed. Don't unsubscribe. Just quit watching.
Exactly.
James H. Jackson said that's the moment my son got up and went and played the Xbox.
Well, your son is smart.
I would have got up with your son to go play Xbox. Does he have a I don't know. I don't know enough games. Dave Scooby says, if this spot between Velvet and Angelina gets Velvet out of the booth, then I'll let it pass. True words were never spoken, Dave Scooby. Truer words were never spoken. Firefly says, just put May Valentine in the booth instead. She might say less, but I'm sure it'd be worth hearing. Yeah, May Valentine has proven to be quite an asset to the show. Her interviews have been great. Well, let me take a step back. They've been very good.
Let's watch the hyperbole.
They've been very good, and by comparison, they've been amazing. I would be okay with May Valentine in the booth, even if she had less to say, or even if she still flubbed some English, or even if she still got confused on some things. I don't care. She'd be a much better addition to the announce booth than Velvet Sky, 100%. Luthes said the NWA YouTube post comment section is, I can't read that word, AstroTurf. Oh, NWA YouTube post comment section is AstroTurf with Pro Velvet on commentary posts. It's pathetic. I don't get that, man. I don't know how. I don't know why. Who enjoys that? Like, I even saw in our Discord on the Alliance Dash Wrestling Discord, the Alliance blog. Roscoe said, I enjoyed Velvet After Dark because I think she's hot. Okay, I guess I could see that, but come on now. Dave Scooby says, or James H. Jackson says, whoa, let's not use the word great with any of this stuff. I mean, fair point, James, fair point. Dave Scooby says, put May in the Spanish-Portuguese broadcast booth. I mean, she could literally call the action in 6 different languages. Why not? Wrestling with MMA says the people that praise Velvet enjoy her because they think she's hot. Look, I think she's hot. She's a very attractive woman, but like it's nails on chalkboard at this point. If they want to do like a weekly segment with her, similar to like what they were doing with May Valentine and Heart to Heart, cool, do it. But take it away from the booth. Don't have her interact with Austin Idol. And for God's sakes, either put her with Dango so we can stop hearing about it, or get rid of both of them. Because at this point, I could care less either way. Okay. Back to the action. And now I'm going to talk about a match that I actually thought was pretty good, but the gimmicks were just too much. Again, this is my problem with the NWA. You want us to take you seriously, but then you put shit like this out. Angelina Love comes out with the Dirty Sexy Boys. Sky spends so much time saying why that's not okay. Whatever. Sal and Gags. I actually thought Sal Renaro and Gags the Gimp worked really well together as a tag team. And if they introduced a secondary junior heavyweight tag titles or a U.S. tag titles, they might be a good fit for that. They worked really well together, and I don't believe I've seen them, Sal or Gags the Gimp, work together before. So it was kind of neat to see them in the ring together. But then things got weird. And of course they got weird because that's what Dango does. Like I said, the gimmicks in this match were just not for me. Dango demands that Gags gets down, and the Gimp listens, and he jumps down, and he's all ready. And that's too much for me already. And does it several times, and Sal's telling him, no, don't listen. So you got Gags jumping up and down, and it was just very uncomfortable. If that's your lifestyle, that's cool, man. Go be happy. But does it really need to be presented on a wrestling program? Is this something I really need to watch? Can we still say that this is family entertainment with this kind of shit on it? Because the answer to me is absolutely fucking not. This was shit.
If you would need to cover your girl's eyes and plug their ears, when parts of the show come on, then don't tell me it's family entertainment. Don't tell me it's for my family. What?
Yeah.
I mean, you got a daughter that's getting ready to graduate, right?
Yep. I took my daughter to the pay-per-view. Had I stuck around for the TV tapings, we would have walked out.
So, yeah, that's just... Yeah, I mean, there are some things that you may not even care if they watch, but you don't watch them together.
No.
It's that type of thing. It's, I knew when my boys were teens, especially their later teens, they watched a lot of the rated R movies and stuff like that. It was like, it's fine. I watched them too. But some of them we did not watch together. And that's even talking to my older boy, he goes, it would just be too weird, Dad. And I go, I agree. I go, we can both watch it. We can both enjoy it. We can talk about it in general. Just leave some of the scenes out. But, and yeah, there are things that you don't want with your family. There's certainly things you don't want with young kids. And of course, since those were TV tapings during the weekday, they probably didn't have young kids there. But it's just still, I don't want to have, I wouldn't want to have to be in your situation where I have young kids and I'm watching that out in the living room and, here comes my 8-year-old or whatever, and it's like, pause, stop. What you need, honey? Okay, go anywhere else in the house but here.
Yeah, I mean, it's problematic because it halfway feels like that the NWA has marketed itself as a family product, but then like totally shoots itself in the foot with this. And yeah, I mean, I'm reading all you guys' comments here. James says, it's been years. Kiss and make up. Bring Cornette back to the booth. Yeah, Cornette's never coming back to the NWA. James also brings up, what website has Billy been watching at midnight? I don't want to know. Firefly says the Gimp gimmick needs to go. And that's the thing. The performer, the wrestler, when you just watch him wrestle, he's pretty good. I mean, like I said, as a tag team, the moves that Renaro and Gags were doing was pretty fun. But the rest of this was just, I don't know, man. I don't know. And, Dave Scooby told me, he's like, hey, you're not going to like this. He told me that month during the tape. He's like, you're not going to like this character, Gags the Gimp. And I don't. He was right. And Luthez says, the Gimp thing comes off as a lame attempt at recreating a question mark type situation with the fans. I thought that's what Scion was there for. I don't mind masked wrestlers, and I don't mind gimmicks either. And I don't mind, if you want to put Gags in, Gags can still be in the same gimpy outfit and be everything the same except for like taking orders from his opponent. Like, that's over the top.
Or that tongue.
I don't like that either, but that's less offensive to me than everything else.
Yeah, it's a whole package thing that becomes the issue.
Anyways, that matchup ends when Dango hits the Michinoku driver. 1, 2, 3. Thank God it's over. But Velvet's back talking about her relationship with Love and Dango and everything else, and it's just God. Thank God it's over. I hope they don't come back from season 9. Next we get Kyle. Textile Kyle with the Pope, and this is a nice palate cleanse because anytime you get a Pope promo, it's fun. I like listening to the Pope talk, and he's very specific that he wants to see Trevor Murdoch face to face next week. Now we know that didn't work out so well for Aaron Stevens, but the Pope is not Aaron Stevens, and he wants to talk to him face to face at the podium because he knows that the situation with the 10 pounds of gold did not work out the way that Trevor wanted, nor has it worked out the way that the Pope has wanted. And who knows? Neither one of these men have a match yet for the pay-per-view. And I'm just foreshadowing here. Maybe these two do get into an exchange next week. It's actually a match that I'd be kind of looking forward to seeing. So, DK, what were your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I love me some Pope. So I enjoyed it. I liked that he was able to talk about how things hadn't necessarily been going his way, haven't been going Murdoch's way, that when you talk, blah, blah, blah. You can't watch Pope and not get excited.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's an order type thing. You cannot. I'm not saying that as a general thing. You better not. You better listen to me here.
Yeah. I think with the Pope too is he's just so good at it. His promos are just so good, and there's no one on the roster that can cut a promo like him. So yeah, so that brings us to the number one contenders match, and I if I was directing the show, I think I would have made this my main event. The number one's contenders match for the Burke. You have Chelsea Green taking on Killian King versus Genocide. This matchup was pretty good. There were times where I kind of, I got easily distracted, but, Genocide and King have teamed up on occasion in Mission Pro. They share so many similar attributes. They're both bigger than most of the women on the roster, most women in pro wrestling. But I felt like this match was kind of lacking. What I felt like should have been a good match was just kind of an average match. And I was happy that Killian King won for reasons that I said earlier. I think that the money matches with Mickie James. I think the handing over the torch is Genocide. I felt like Killian King proves to be a great opponent for Camille, but not one that Camille can't overcome. So I'm happy about the matchup because it makes sense for the pay-per-view. But I just don't feel like this match could have been as good as it was. What did you think about it, DK?
Well, it was a three-way, so automatically points off. And I think some of the reasons it doesn't live up to expectations is the fact that it's a three-way. Put any two of them in the ring together, I think you probably have a pretty hot match. And sometimes I'll say, well, it's good for what it was, but you're right. This one kind of seemed to be lacking. The best moment that I think that sums up this match is when Chelsea Green has the submission hold on Killian, and then Genocide comes behind her and puts on the weakest looking sleeper I've ever seen in my entire life until she finally came off and she kind of synced it in. And, there was just that moment of the thing, and it didn't look real. It did. The sleeper was barely on. Green didn't look like she was actually suffering any, and it just looked fake.
Yeah.
And to me there's nothing worse when things are kind of just that goofy, silly fake. I said earlier, I don't like silly. And this was just one of those silly moments, and it was in a match. And the silly makes it look fake. I mean, look, I know they're not really hitting each other and stuff, but I talked about the difference between the people who punch to the side of the head or past the head or whatever, and then watching Steve Austin, hit Kevin Owens with just those short things right on the forehead.
Right.
You knew the punch was pulled, but man, he was hitting him in the forehead. That's what you would do. He right there, not come on, people. So I was disappointed overall, other than being content with the winner.
Yeah. So that'll take us to the next segment, next match, next whatever. We get the 6-man tag main event. They said this on commentary, but I kind of took it to heart. It was the Cardonas versus the British Commonwealth Invasion Connection. They could have called them the British Invasion with Harry Smith. They called them the Commonwealth Connection with Nick Aldis. I love seeing Harry Smith on my TV, and I'm all for it. I want to see more of it. The dude is jacked. He's got a better tan than Tim Storm. At least he's darker. Doug Williams is just phenomenal in the ring. I love watching that guy wrestle all the time as well. Nick Aldis is still a 5-tool talent. I mean, he's a great professional wrestler. But the story of this match was just Matt Cardona not wanting anything to do with Nick Aldis. And of course, Harry Smith being jacked up. I mean, dude suplexed Mike Knox, who is no small guy. And it wasn't just a suplex. It was one of those standing suplex, held him up there in the sun for like at least a minute or two. And, I would have liked to see more Cardona in the ring. But again, I get they're playing him up as this chicken shit heel. He needs to get away from Aldis. He's concerned about Aldis. Obviously, they knew at this point that they were going to put Aldis in that world title match. I hate the fact that Joe Galli says, well, it's obvious that Nick Aldis deserves a world title shot. I mean, again, that's the most hallowed three matches he's had in the NWA. And all of a sudden now he's qualified for 10 pounds of gold shot. I mean, look at it this way. We're talking about the television champion has to win 7 matches in order to qualify for an opportunity to wrestle for the World's Heavyweight Championship. And the national champion is your number 1 contender, and all he has to do is put in a request. Nick Aldis literally defeated, and we could only assume he defeated 3 people because we know he defeated Aria Daivari. We know he defeated Jordan Clearwater, and now we assume he defeated Brian Myers, but we don't know that for certain.
Well, Bennett.
What's that?
Bennett.
Okay, Bennett. Okay, so 4. Well, Bennett's a good victory, but still, that's 4 guys who not one of them were in the title picture. Not one of those guys, is a number 1 contender or in the top 5. So it feels very hollow for them to make him the world champion. Now, I know this is the storyline that they're going with And I'm not shocked that they're putting him in the main event for the world title at Alwayz Ready. I just feel like if that's the path you were going to take, you knew that a month ago. You knew that in March. Build up to it. Have him go over more than just, Michael Bennett. He should have had some big victories against some big names. He should have had a victory over who's someone? I guess Tom Latimer's been done to death, but maybe he should have had a victory over Jack Stain in a non-title match. Maybe he should have had a victory over God, now that I'm thinking about it, there isn't a whole lot of good choices to choose from, is there?
Well, he could have beat Tyrus in a non-title match.
Sure.
Because, the problem is now most of the top people are faces, so you'd have a face versus face. Here's my assumption. My assumption is something happened at Power Trip 2 where either Cardona was actually there or whatever, and because they're trying to talk about what type of stipulation, and everything. So I'm guessing something probably happened to that. But, again, here's the problem when you're doing this episodic TV that you film in 2 days, but make it sound like it's really the 3 months or whatever that they show it over, is they don't time things right. So, somebody, Dodie, was whining that, first you want them to announce the matches early, and now you're complaining that they do. It's like, hey, I'm not whining that they announced the match early. I'm whining with what the match is.
Yes.
Yes. So, someone else, Gary Horn, has also said, similar thing. Well, nothing makes you people happy. They do this. And, no, I want them to do things right. I want them to do things in a way that makes sense. I want them to do things in a way that would make somebody other than a hardcore idiot who's watching it, whether he likes it or not half the time, just because he supports the brand. I want someone so like if, when my son's walking through the thing, and he's been to some wrestling, he's not a huge wrestling fan, but I want it where he'd want to sit down and watch it.
Yes.
And go, hey, this is pretty good. Hey, this makes sense. Hey, I understand what they're doing. My son's 22, 23. Ooh, man, I'm getting old. And and he's he's been to wrestling shows with me. He went to WrestleMania with me. He's been to some of the local indies around here. You would think he loves video games. You would think he's the type of person that just built for modern day wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, one day I'm watching, old Mid-South things on YouTube, and he comes by and he stops, and he's just like looking at it. And I go, yeah. I go, this is from back in the early 80s. I go, this is what was on, when I first got interested in wrestling and stuff like that. And he just stays kind of quiet, watches for a while, and then, it's an enhancement match. And once it's over, he looks at me and goes, that looked like it was an actual competition. I go, yeah, that's the way they used to do it. He goes, that's pretty cool. And then went back to play his video game. And, but, that got him. He was able to watch it and go, hey, and maybe if I would watch things at a regular time and things like that, he might join me. But, he'll tell me modern day wrestling doesn't make sense. Again, there's your target audience. That's the person you're going for.
Yeah.
The gamer boy. And he'd much rather see, old school wrestling than he would the crap that's out there. And I guess that's all this started as a rant just on stop, do things that make logical sense. Do things that we can follow and not have to guess. So if you're going to announce matches early, then you need to have all the setup for why the match is happening this early. And, hopefully not in 3 weeks when they show it on, Power.
Yeah, and look, if we're being honest, yes, I am happy that the matches were announced sooner than later. There's a month to build to it. Excuse me. I'm allergic to hot takes. But this is not, this is not that. And you can build it up and have it make sense too. And you can announce it, but have it make sense too. And Dave Scooby has said it. I've said it. Like, look, what's the end result? Where do you want to be? Okay, now let's plot it backwards and get to the match that's happening at the TV tapings. And if you can't get there on a straight line, then maybe that's not the line you take. Maybe you go back to the other route. If the idea at Crockett Cup 2 or 2022 was to put Nick Aldis back into a match with Matt Cardona, and you have Billy saying, you got to earn it, buddy. You got to earn it. Well, then maybe he should have wrestled every member of the Cardona family. Look, I beat Knox. I beat VSK. I beat Brian Myers. I beat everyone that you put in front of me. Now give me Cardona. That's one way to do it. I went after your family. I took everyone out in your family, Cardona. Now it's just you. Perfect. Okay, maybe you don't want to go that route. Cool. You could have had him beat some of the bigger names in the program right now. Tom Latimer, Chris Adonis, Tim Storm, Jack Stain, Tyrus, to a lesser extent.
Hey, look, right now, they have 2 tag teams that came from ROH, right? They have the Briscoes, and they have the Original Kingdom. Jay Briscoe, former 2-time champion.
Yep.
Matt Taven, former champion.
Yep.
Both of these guys are wrestling tag team more than not right now. And Taven said, hey, I'm interested in 10 pounds of gold. What's it for all of us to go out there and go, well, I want it too. So let's get in the ring here and figure out which one of us is going to move forward. Jay Briscoe, hey. Jay's disappeared. Dog is here. the world's coming to a bitter end. Did you come say goodnight?
Unfortunately, I had a call as soon as I was ready to come in to join you guys. I had an important business call that took me all the way up until now. So I do apologize. But yes, I figured we'll come in and whatever I say, I'll get my words in.
Well, we just finished Power because I don't really have anything to say about the main event other than it was what it was. I liked it for what it was. They took the cheap way out and getting Aldis to submit the short initials guy. So we see how great that was. And then, oh, God, he's smiling. I don't know that that's a good thing either. But anyway, I have pulled up on my computer here the 6 announced title matches for the pay-per-view. And if they put a 7th title match on it, then I don't think that we need to, have any other matches. But I want to go real quick.
Clash of the Champions, because that's that's every match in NWA when it comes to if they have every champion, that's every match.
I mean, this could be a parade of the champions. We could have the champions come parade around the ring with their belts and then, defend them on the show. Anyhow, or Battle of the Belts, but, the ones that are currently using that are AEW. And boy, are they doing a suck-ass job with that particular title. But here are the matches. So I'm curious as to what both your thoughts are. The very first match, Jay, is NWA World Women's Tag Team Championship, the Hex champions, versus Pretty Empowered, Ella MV and Kenzie Page. And isn't this a rematch?
Yeah, this is 100% a rematch from the pay-per-view.
And they've done not one single thing, not one single match to show that Pretty Empowered, which were pinned cleanly last time, deserve another championship match. Or did I miss something? People out there, did I miss something?
No, you didn't miss anything.
I have no idea why the R-rated fuck they're doing this. So tell me your thoughts, Jay.
Well, my thoughts are this, man. They didn't do a good job of building up the women's tag team division, period. And I mean, let's be perfectly honest. They could have done something. They could have done anything to build this up properly. You know, the Hex were in a live event defending the women's tag team titles outside of an NWA venue when they did a Power Trip 2. So they didn't make any effort to really support this. And, you know, a rematch is fine, but they could have built to it. They could have talked about it. This is just out of like left field. It doesn't make sense.
Now, I don't know anything about Ella and V's real life. So I don't know if she was unable to make the tapings or what the deal is. And if she was, then you go another direction. If she wasn't able to make them, you go another direction. But if she had been able to make them, but you just didn't bring her in because that seems to be Billy's thing. How hard is it to put on 3 women's tag team matches or 4 women's tag team matches over the course of this thing, or have had them at Power Trip as well and get them some wins that go, okay, yeah, they lost at the thing, but man, they, you know, kind of like we were talking about with all this, you know, they've earned their way back. I mean, Jaden, is that ridiculous to think they should earn their way back and not just be there again?
Not at all, but this reeks of, hey, we have to get our talent on the card, and and Kenzie Page has a buzz right now. She's starting to really become popular and known, and she's starting to get her name out there. So she has a little bit of a buzz right now, and I think they're just trying to capitalize on that. And that's her established tag partner, I guess. I don't know if they team anywhere else, but that's her established tag partner. So what it is they have to get the Hex on the card, and they have to have a match. And Kenzie Page has a little bit of a buzz right now, and yeah, she does keep getting title matches, and that's because they're trying to milk her for everything they can get out of her until they lose her. She'll probably end up on AEW soon.
And they do team on the independents.
Okay, so there's their established tag team, and they're trying to steal whatever they buzz and momentum they can from Kenzie Page until they lose her. I have a feeling they don't expect to keep her. Maybe they don't have time to sign her, so it might show up in Impact. She might show up at MLW. She might show up at AEW. We never know. So they're just trying to take advantage of the little bit of buzz Kenzie Page has and just get it out there. It reminds me, in the old Nintendo days of the NES, they had one of the original wrestling games. It was called Tag Team Wrestling, and I remembered it because there was only ever 2 tag teams. So that's kind of the women's division in the NWA right now. One of the original wrestling games was called Tag.
I would agree with that. Jay, do you have any other thoughts? You're echoing.
I might be experiencing some technical issues, so if I'm being quiet, I'm trying to make my my computer work correctly.
All right. So the next match is NWA National Heavyweight Championship. Jack Stain versus Chris Adonis. Now, I had heard Adonis was supposed to have surgery, and I do not know if he did or did not. So I don't know what type of shape he's going to be in. He had been injured, so I don't know what to think of this match yet. Normally, I'd say, hey, that sounds pretty good to, you know, bigger guys going in, going with something. I certainly see Dane going over. I certainly hope Dane goes over because his 2 national title reigns sucked. Chris Adonis's. So if everybody's in good shape, been ready to go. I think that could be a good match. Jaden?
I agree. Adonis is better than he gets credit for, especially when he's in shape. He is a former national champion. He's never got his rematch, so this is also something on that. So it's a good win, possibly for Dane, hopefully. This is the NWA, so we never know. But it'll be a good win for Dane to help solidify his reign. He's a former WWE wrestler, so that's a good thing for Dane to beat also. They're two. It's like King Kong and Godzilla. To let them fight. If they can go with, like I think they can, it might be something worth seeing. Right now, it's the only match so far that you've showed me that I have any kind of caring about. It all again depends on the shape of Adonis, but hopefully he can go.
Yeah, I tend to agree. When I look at Jax Dane, when I look at Chris Adonis, I feel like they pass the sniff test, if you will. Jax is your Godzilla. I mean, he is the Dane event. He looks every bit a pro wrestler should look. And Chris Adonis, likewise, dude's built like a brick house. No pun intended. I feel like this could be a really good match. I just don't want them to take the belt off of Jax Dane, and I'm kind of afraid they might do that.
Yeah, it's funny how we all not necessarily expect that, but we also don't expect that.
Yeah.
It would be, I mean, right now, if you'd ask me what are the percentage chances, I'd tell you 50-50 because they're just weird. But I would hope they would go with Dane for a little bit and give some stability to the national titles, which has not been stable except for when it's not defended.
Yeah.
All right, so next match, NWA World Television Championship. Tyrus, the champion, defends against the man who won the Body Slam challenge, surprisingly, Mims. Mims has had some problems in some of his interviews, and that we're trying to figure out if he's face, heel, or able to even talk. Tyrus can talk, but nobody wants to see him in the ring. He's obviously one of Billy's boys. He rarely defends the title, but has held it for close to 11 months. I don't see anything really changing. I'm expecting Tyrus to come out. I'm not expecting a horrible match, but I'm not expecting like a killer, hoss fight match either. The television title is made for somebody like Mims, really. Kind of that, let's give him his chance and do it. So the matchup isn't bad per se. It's have no faith that the NWA will do it right.
I'm calling it right now, NWA. If Mims doesn't win, we're going to whine excessively online.
My thought is this. The television title has become the biggest missed opportunity in the NWA. It can be a tool to get people over. It's a title that doesn't have to stay on one person for very long. In fact, it's literally built to surrender to the title after you've won 7 matches as champion. And it shouldn't take a year to win 7 matches. I mean, look, the Pope was defending every other week on Power, like he should have, because it's a television championship. I mean, is that too much to ask for, that the title's defended on a regular basis? I mean, in the old days, you had 30 days to defend the title, and if you didn't defend it within 30 days, you're out of here. This is a situation where Tyrus has absolutely destroyed any value that title belt has had. And I don't know if I blame Tyrus or if I blame the NWA, but any way you look at it, the value of that belt is zip, zero, zilch, nada, nothing. You put it on a guy like Mims, and it can mean something again. And, not for nothing, I recently talked to Jeremiah Plunkett, and although Jeremiah Plunkett is not a young guy by any stretch of the imagination, he's a guy that's a workhorse that could be used in a better situation than he's used currently. And I don't know, with a title belt that is meaningful but doesn't have to be your number 1 priority or even your number 2 title belt, it would be great to see a championship like that bounce around. and you get Mims to get 2 or 3 victories, and then, he's shocked by somebody like Jeremiah Plunkett. Have Plunkett win a belt. Have Plunkett have that title for a week or two. And move that belt around and let it end up on Jordan Clearwater for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months. And let it bounce around and help build up some of these talents. When Slice Boogie comes back, let him have a shot at it. I don't know. I just think the way that it's been used in the last year has absolutely absolved any value that it had. And at this point, if I was Tyrus, I would abdicate the title just based on the fact that I've been such a shitty champion.
Well, the problem is, and I think it's the stupid 605 rule and the stupid 7 matches, and then you get a world title shot. They obviously have no faith to put Tyrus in a world championship match because nobody wants to see him. So that's probably why they're stretching out his title matches, because they don't want him to lose, but they don't want him to get a title match. So they're just stretching it out. If they would have done like a regular 15-minute time limit, 10-minute time limit match where you have 10 minutes to win the championship, and then if not, it's a draw, and the television champion, if it's a draw, counts as the winner. Then that's how it should go, and then you keep going, and then eventually somebody defeats them. You'll see the title defended more. But they go with this beat the champ style, which would be something I wouldn't mind. But instead of having a world championship, then they should have it like he defends it 7 times, he gets $70,000 or something like that, or he gets $100,000, or gets $50,000, or even $10,000 or something like that. That's the old ways they used to do it. So that should just it. He defends it 7 times, he gets $10,000. Then they pick 2 new wrestlers to defend the wrestling championship next time.
Yeah, that's kind of what they did in the world class days. The TV champion was only defended in Fort Worth. It was only defended on the Fort Worth show, the Championship Sports, which aired 10 o'clock on Saturday nights. It was always the second match on the show. It was the draw a name out of a hat. And you defended it 10 times, you got $5,000 or something like that. Or maybe it was $10,000. But the idea was every week they put $500 in the pot. So if the challenger won, the challenger got whatever money was in the pot. But the champion had to win all 10 times before he got the money. The big thing. And it's something important. But look, you could put the television title something you could have 4 to 5 champions in a year and it not be bad. It not be wrong. Especially because, let's be honest, it's a title that's normally put on the lower mid-card guys. You bring them in, they spend twice a month, or the equivalent twice a month on the thing. You switch the title before it gets, on title defense 5 or title defense 6, so that they don't make it to the 7. And then when you need a reason for somebody like Nick Aldis to get to a title match, then you put the title on someone like a Nick Aldis or Dick Murdoch, or not Dick Murdoch, Trevor Murdoch, or Harry Smith or somebody like that. And then you have a 7-month build. You have a 3 to 4 to 7 month build with this person, depending on the title, about once a month, in bigger, high profile title matches, and then they get to challenge for the world championship. There you go, bing, bang, boom. And so I don't feel like it's difficult. I don't feel like it's hard to think of something like that. I mean, I'm doing it right now off the top of my head. And so, anyway, let's move on from that one. The next one is the NWA World Males Tag Team Championship. Law Rebellion versus the Commonwealth Connection. And, of course, the Commonwealth Connection defeated Law Rebellion in the Crockett Cup. So I will give them credit. Back when Kevin was here, we said you could get 2 top contenders out of the Crockett Cup. You get one team beats the champion, another team that wins the cup. So that's what they did. The team that won the Cup Challenge, they had a hell of a match on Power. It was almost like, watching a different show. And so now they have, I like the Commonwealth connection. Doug Williams is old, yes, but he fits in well. And look, at the end of the Power, you saw Doug Williams, David Boy Smith Jr. or Harry Smith or whatever you want to call him, and Nick Aldis. And, I don't think there's an ounce of fat that gets split between those three guys. And so, Jaden, what do you think of the World Tag Team title match? I mean, this is something that's had build or at least a story to it.
Yeah, I actually look forward to this. This is something I'm glad that they're doing. By tradition reasons, the champ should go over now because they defended against. They lost in the Crockett Cup against they weren't the winners, but they lost in that round to them. So this is their chance to get it back and get a credible win against a credible tag team that actually is somebody I'd like to see. The tag team division is kind of the best thing the NWA has right now. It's purely by accident, but still. And you know what? I really like La Rebellion. They were okay when they won the belts, but the more and more I see them as champions, it has elevated them tremendously. I apologize with all the noise in my house right now. The outside, I have the windows open, but yeah, it's a solidified championship win that should be La Rebellion, and then maybe if there's a rematch, there's a rubber match, then you can put the belts on the Commonwealth. But I think right now La Rebellion should go over.
Right, and that's when you would have a reason for a rematch then.
They're built in. They one win each. Now who's the rubber match to decide who's the true winner?
I couldn't agree with you guys more. 100%.
Screw it up then.
Yeah. The thing about it is Alwayz Ready is supposed to be the lead to the next pay-per-view, which I'm assuming is going to be the 74th anniversary show. Could be wrong, but that's what my assumption is. And if that's the case, then, that's a pretty high-profile match either way you look for the 74th, whether it be the Briscoes or the Commonwealth Connection challenging La Rebellion, or let's say La Rebellion loses. Well, then you've got the Briscoes challenging the Commonwealth Connection at the 74th. Any one of those matches would be a high-profile match, so I'm excited for it.
I'm glad they have Harry on the card. He's a talent. I'm glad that the tag team division, that's what this NWA, no matter what you're saying, is a bad copy of Jim Crockett Promotions. And the one thing Jim Crockett Promotions had better than anywhere was a tag team division. Their tag team wrestling was known. Even the singles wrestlers wrestled in tag team matches often because of the importance of tag team wrestling. And I think I'm happy to see tag team wrestling somewhere in the wrestling world thriving.
Okay, so the next match, NWA World Women's Championship, Camille versus Killing King. We saw why King's in it. On this show, she won the number one Contenders three-way. Wasn't a good match for the three-way, but I think Camille versus King could be I think that could be a woman's hoss match.
Yes.
I don't know what you call women hosses. Hoss maybe. I don't know. But I can't say that I would buy the pay-per-view for this, but I can be happy that it's on a pay-per-view that I'm already buying. So, if you understand what I'm meaning by that. So we'll go with Jay first this time, just because I want to be different. So, Jay, what's your thoughts on this match?
Well, Killing King has certainly been impressive in her limited time in the NWA. I mean, she got that big win against Natalia Marcova just a few weeks ago. Her and Red Velvet came just a hair close to winning the Women's Tag Team Championships. I felt that she's looked good in every single match that she's had. Even the cluster that was the triple threat, I still think she looked good in that match. She just had a great a great interview on Busted Open Radio recently, where you hear about her as an individual, as a human being. She's got a great story, struggled for everything that she's got. She's worked hard. She's a graduate from the Team 3D Academy. I like her, and I think she fits in well with the NWA. I think this could be a very good match. Like, you're right, it's a Hasset match that's set up. I really feel good about this one. Is this a match that I would like run to go order on pay-per-view if it wasn't included? Not necessarily, but it's certainly a well-balanced. It's a good match on what appears to be a very well-balanced card.
Yeah, in wrestling terms, there's this thing called the also match or the also name. And the also name or the also match is that's not the main draw, but if you're on the fence, it may push you over toward the side of going or ordering the event. Sometimes there's like a big name like we'll use Nick Aldis or Harry Smith, and then they might have an also name, somebody who's not necessarily going to draw the crowd, but they will. If somebody's on that fence, they may push them over more to decide. And I think that's what this match is. Killing King is another one who's starting to get a buzz. I know she just recently worked at AEW, and I think the NWA is probably afraid that they're not going to have her long, so they're trying to take what they can from her now. And they're like, hey, look, our champion beat this person.
Which is a smart move. Look, I can't knock that. All right. Now, here comes the controversial one in my book. The main event, also a rematch from last pay-per-view. NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Matt Cardona champion versus Nick Aldis. We're not really sure why this match is happening, and we're not sure why they're going to issue some kind of special stipulation for the match. So could it be a cage match? Could it be a street fight, a Texas death match, or, whatever. And so,
well, let me interrupt you.
I don't know.
Let me interrupt you real quick because they said it's only going to either be a cage match or a death match. Those are the only stipulations that, and they'll be announcing that on next week's probably Power, either during or shortly after.
All right, so whatever the thing is, I'm just not interested. I don't want to see this match again. I don't want to, and the special stipulation doesn't make me want to see it anymore. And it's funny, this would be the main event, and that you go, this is the draw, the World Championship. And let's be honest, there's 3 other matches that I'm more interested in than this one. So I don't know where we go or what we do, but Jay, I'll let you talk about and try and find out why my dog's scratching at my door.
I mean, you just kind of hit the nail on the head. James H. Jackson just said something in the conversation, but I think he was referencing the women's match. But I think the same could be applied to here. Is this going to draw more people to the product? And I don't think the answer is yes, because they had the opportunity to watch this match at the Crockett Cup. How are they going to top it? Oh, we're going to put a special stipulation. Well, I don't remember seeing a death match in the NWA, and I know that Matt Cardona has adopted the death match lifestyle since he's been in Game Changer Wrestling. But let's be honest, he's not a death match wrestler. And a steel cage match is fine. I'm okay with a steel cage match. It certainly lends itself to being a steel cage match because it should prevent outside interference. But Nick Aldis doesn't need to be world's heavyweight champion. And it makes me feel like the brand doesn't know how to promote a wrestling event without Nick Aldis on the card. It makes me feel that Mr. Billy Corgan is unsure of his talents. Because look, let's be 100% honest. He has not had a title match on his shows that didn't involve Nick Aldis but one time. And that wasn't even a pay-per-view. That was a premiere live event. Nick Aldis lost the title to Trevor Murdoch at the 74th anniversary show, and every pay-per-view before that featured Nick Aldis in the main event.
Well, they had Mike Knox versus.
You're right. Okay, you're right. Absolutely, and of course, at Crockett Cup, Aldis wasn't. Excuse me. You're right. Hard Times, he was not in the main event. Nick Aldis is a great wrestler. I'm not taking that away from him. And I know people are going to say, hey, Jay, you're hating on Aldis again. And that's not what I'm doing here. There is a time and place for Nick Aldis to be world's heavyweight champion. And I'm not saying it's too far off. But I'm saying it's been less than a year since he was in the title picture. And he's already got 2 title matches. I think it's very hollow that he only had to win 4 matches to be considered a world's heavyweight champion, challenger. He didn't beat anybody of any circumstance. What is Brian Myers to the NWA? What's his win-loss record in the NWA? 0, right? Until he loses on Power Trip 2. He beat Aria Davari, who has been an afterthought for NWA USA. He's not even on the program on a regular, consistent basis. He beat Mike Bennett. Okay, that does carry some weight. I will give him that. And he beat Jordan Clearwater. At least Jordan Clearwater is on the program on a regular basis. But again, are any of those men, any of them, people you'd consider in the top 10 for the World's Heavyweight Championship? He didn't beat the Pope. Hey, that would have been a great victory for him. Go beat Pope. Go beat Trevor Murdoch. No, completely left those 2 guys out of the picture. Why? Because they know it would hurt them to lose to Aldis. Well, if we keep them away from Aldis and just feed Aldis little kittens, little cans of tomato soup, no one's going to care. It's stupid. It's dumb. It doesn't make me want to – it doesn't elevate Aldis to a title match. It doesn't make me any more interested in Cardona versus Aldis. I would rather see almost anybody on the roster versus Cardona than Aldis. And again, I think Aldis is a terrific wrestler. It's not being built up correctly. And sure, you could have Aldis go on all the podcasts and radio shows and badmouth Cardona. You could have Cardona on Twitter and the Maldives and say how much a chump that Nick Aldis is. But at the end of the day, they've done so little to hype this match up, to make it meaningful, to make it important, that if they don't care, why do I care?
Well, and the question is who are they going to get that doesn't already, isn't already going to be following anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. So, Jaden, if you had thoughts, I missed them.
I have plenty of thoughts, but not all of them are always good. Basically, though, Aldis right now is what people associate with the NWA, and without bringing in an outside name, they didn't build up anybody as a challenger. Murdoch's never been built back up as a challenger since. Pope was, but then they had him lose, and they haven't done anything to rehabilitate him since. I mean, who else is there that you can do? It isn't that as much as they're going with all this again. It's they have no option. They have no other option because they painted themselves in a corner, and now they're stuck, and they have to work with whoever they have that has any kind of name value whatsoever. And they're hoping Cardona's name is important enough to make them want to see against all this, the outsider versus the hometown hero or whatever, the champion of the NWA, the person who's fighting for the NWA. So exactly what other challenger could there possibly be? I mean, if they build up Danes properly, that's good. But again, that's a long time away. Who else? They could bring in a name, have them beat a name of somebody who's not from the company. But again, why would we care?
And what names are actually available? I mean, Cardona threatened to do that. That was part of his thing, was he was threatening to bring in a name. What name is out there that would generate interest outside the normal group? I mean, I suppose
Jay has
some
an
people have.
Jay has
I
an
have like
option.
I have like 3 names, and I know that they're not my favorite, but I know that it would cause a stir. The whole control your narrative movement, Braun Strowman or Adam Schiff, EC3. I don't know his real name, but any one of those guys from that group, bringing them in, at least for a one-off, could certainly get people talking. Maybe not in the most positive way, but it would get people talking.
What was your third option?
Who's the other guy that's in the that group? Not Aries, but the other guy.
I don't remember, which shows how important that group is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's not my choice. It's not who I'd want to book to see. But if you're going to talk about somebody outside who's got a little bit of buzz, I mean, EC3 was supposed to be the chosen one for Impact. He was supposed to be the next big thing in the WWE, and none of those things came to fruition. I mean, look, I think there are a lot of guys who are still wrestling without a contract. Like Chris Drummond says, Rob Van Dam now. Like I'm not about Rob Van Dam at this point in his career, but I mean, he's a guy that could certainly make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is how much crossover is there? In other words,
there it is, Killer Cross.
Killer Cross. Okay, finally somebody who makes sense. Because he had that time in NXT. We won't count his WWE main card thing since that stunk to high heaven. But
if he brings in Scarlett, yeah.
Well, I mean, and you're not wrong. I mean, because the gimmick of the two of them together was better than just Cross by himself.
Yeah. She added to that package, and there's a joke in there somewhere. And then they could do Killer Cross and Scarlett versus Cardona and his wife. And then they could have a 3-way with Cardona and his wife versus Scarlett and Killer Cross, and then Aldis and Mickey James. And then they could put it on the Spice Network.
I'm not 100% sure how you meant that, but I'm having Velvet After Dark vibes again. And, but look, the seriousness here, folks, if I may be serious for a moment.
If you have to.
Yes, if I may be. Jaden hit the nail on the head, which is there's nobody else really that you'd be ready to outside of, I mean, on a personal level, I'd see Pope again. Hell, on a personal level, I would like to see this version of Dick Murdoch against him.
Trevor.
No, I like Dick better.
Oh, finally outed yourself, huh, DK?
I did. I got Jay to fall out of his chair, which was my goal.
This is Lions Guys After Dark, out of the closet.
Let's see. Chris Drummond says, would Samuel Shaw be a good outsider to bring in? And
not for 90 days.
Honestly, I don't know. So, yeah.
My problem with Samuel Shaw is, again, like what value does he have? You mentioned EC3. He's a former Impact World Champion. You mentioned Braun Strowman. I believe he held the Universal Championship at least some point. I think I could be wrong. Killer Cross was an NXT champion and a guy we all expected really big things from. Sam Shaw still really didn't do anything. He was dating Indy Hartwell in NXT, and it just didn't really get anywhere. So I mean, he's a great. I think he would be a welcomed addition to the NWA roster, and I think that's what will happen with him at some point down the road. But I don't see him as being that guy.
There's a lot of people though from NXT that got released. It's a shame we can't remember any of them, or the WWE that might be good roster members, but is Billy going to pay for it, or is he too busy wasting money on his friends who are just wasting time, wasting space?
I think we know the answer to that question.
Well, and one more thing, and then I'll shut up. But like, you look at that New Japan Strong roster, right? Look at the guys that are filtering in through there. Jonah, Shane Haste, a lot of guys from NXT that have been released, or the WWE that are free agents. They're working shows with New Japan Strong. They could too work with work for Billy, but they don't.
Yeah, I mean, Jonah works for Impact as well as New Japan Strong. So,
by the way, Willie Mack is also a free agent at this point.
Why do they even have to be free agents? If they're working with Impact at least slightly, what about Moose? Or
shit.
Yeah, that'd
be great.
I'd like to see that. Moose, just as long as they don't bring in what was her name? Jordan Grace. I don't want to see her challenge for the world title, but I mean, I have nothing against her as a woman wrestler. I just don't want to see her challenge for the NWA Championship. But there's maybe they could work somebody with the NWA.
No, I think you're absolutely right. There does seem to be some sort of crossover with the Impact roster and the NWA roster, and Moose would be a great answer. And Moose would be a great answer to win the title. Not that that's going to happen, but Josh Alexander would be a great example of someone to bring in to challenge, although it's not going to happen. I mean, there's so many guys on that Impact roster. If you could borrow one for a show, sure. But again, like, that doesn't fix the problem, the fact that the NWA hasn't done a good enough job building up its roster to have a legitimate challenger for that World's Heavyweight Championship. And I think that's the biggest crime of all of it, is there are several gentlemen on that roster who'd make a great challenger to Matt Cardona. But God damn it, not one of them have been pushed in a position to be that guy. Nick Aldis hasn't even been pushed to be that guy.
No, I mean, and certainly not in any type of serious, again, we're talking about whether this is old Jim Crockett, or they talk about, bringing back old school wrestling. And I see the fanboys and the fangirls say stuff like that too. It's so great to see old school wrestling. Well, if you watch pay-per-views, you actually do see some of that. It's these shows that are horrible.
By the way, Dave Scooby says, make it a rat in a cage match and have Billy be the special referee.
I think so. No, look, we're at 9:30, so we've officially run over our 2-hour program by our normal 30 minutes. So, but we had to do something since Jaden joined late.
Why don't we go for 3 hours? That way, when we get 2 hours and 30 minutes, we get done early.
We got to go.
Anyway. So I'm DKM. You can find me on Twitter at DKMFWTX. Though I haven't been posting a lot recently because of work. And Jay, I'll let you wrap up the go home.
Okay. Well, Jaden, I know that there's an event coming up Saturday, June 25th in beautiful Glassboro, New Jersey at the MaxFit Sports Center. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's going to be a Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators event, once again known as the All-American Bash, our annual summertime event. You're going to see the rematch for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship as new champion, classic Eric Martin, Mr. Busky himself, defends his championship against Ray Jazz, former champion. It is a rematch for that championship, and I think it's going to be an absolutely stellar matchup. You're going to want to come to see that one alone. I know there's going to be an I Quit match with Nikos Rikos versus Ty Thomas. They've been building this up for quite some time, and there's a little bit of hatred between the two. And basically, it's going to be, they're going to have a match where the only way you can win is to say, I quit. You're going to see a wrestler give up and quit right then and there. give up everything they have, and it's going to be, it's going to have to be violent for either one of these wrestlers to give up. So you want to make sure you're there and bring everybody you can, because they're going to want to see it too. There's going to be a match to determine new Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Champions. Currently signed in this match are former champions, the Old School Empire of Patch and Vinny the Fixer, and former Ring of Honor superstars, Primal Fear. So those are two matches. I believe it's going to end up being a four corners elimination match. So there's going to be 4 teams, and they're going to tag in and out, and all 4 teams have to be eliminated. All 3 out of the 4 teams have to be eliminated to crown new champions. And those are 2 of the champions already named. And Dark STG, formerly known as Steve Gibke, formerly of the Down Boys. He former 2-time dog tag team champion, but now he's kind of gone his wicked ways, and it's called Dark STG. He's going to be on the card along with WWGP champion Chris Steeler. And don't forget, J. Cal's favorite professional wrestler, Daredevil Dave Dahl, will be there.
It sounds like you have a packed card with a lot of talent and Dave Dahl, so it should be a great night of action there in Glassboro, New Jersey. Of course, we spoke to Jeremiah Plunkett earlier this week. We also talked to Papo Esco. Both those interviews are both up at YouTube, Twitch, and available for podcast streaming. Look for the Alliance Blog podcast, and you can check those out. But until next time, we will see you at the matches. Join us Monday. Chance Profit. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.